Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Bartkus, the director of the Ridgefield Historical Society. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Ridgefield History Club here at the Scott House. We're at 4 Sunset Lane in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Today's date is Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. It's so nice to see all of you. The Ridgefield Historical Society is an independent nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving and sharing Ridgefield's historical, cultural, and architectural heritage from the indigenous peoples who lived here thousands of years ago all the way up to the present day. And for everyone here and watching on Facebook, I invite you all to get involved in the exciting and important work that we do here by becoming members and volunteers of the Historical Society. And please consider the Historical Society in your year-end giving. So for today, we're talking about holiday baking traditions, and we're hoping that everyone will be able to share a favorite family recipe. And I know some of you have brought family cookbooks to talk about. It's just a really exciting topic, and we even have some holiday cookies that some of you brought for us to taste. I wanted to briefly mention this fascinating history of cookbooks. So they go back thousands of years. Evidence of recipes first exists back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. So thousands of years ago, there's evidence of recipes being written on clay tablets. So they go far, far back. Then, of course, when we come into the more modern period, in the 18th century or so, is when the printing press was invented, and this allowed everyone to print their recipes, and they became more mass-produced. And then with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, things became more standardized with technological advancements, such as the invention of stoves and canned goods, and recipes really became more standardized with more precise measurements and instructions on how to bake your favorite cookies and other foods. And then, of course, we come into the 20th century, and the world becomes a more globalized place, and trade is increasing, and there's this spread of international cuisines and foods, so new recipes are exposed to new audiences that have never been able to experience them before, and cookbooks really became diversified during the 20th century, with some including one of the more famous ones that maybe you have at your homes, the one by Julia Child in 1961, Mastering the Art of French Cooking. So that one really was one of the more popular cookbooks during the 20th century. And of course there are community and regional cookbooks often tied to fundraising efforts, and Betsy was able to pull quite a few of those out of our collection here at the Ridgefield Historical Society. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you could see some of those on the television screen as well as on display in front of the TV. So oftentimes community groups would ask people in town to submit their favorite recipes, and then those cookbooks were sold as fundraisers for that nonprofit organization. So we'll be taking a closer look at some of those. And then, of course, we're in the 21st century now, and it's all about the digital era, right? So cookbooks are still produced, but they thrive alongside food blogs and Instagram posts and Facebook posts and TikTok posts, and of course YouTube channels that share recipes online. And there are lots of celebrity chefs and of course influencers these days who share their recipes and cookbooks with us, including, I just saw that Martha Stewart came out with her latest cookbook, and she's been doing some book signings in the area. So it's really fascinating to dive into this topic of cookbooks and holiday recipes. So with that, I think I want to open the discussion up to all of you. And is there anyone who has a favorite family recipe they'd like to share, or a story, or a cookbook that you may have brought with you that you could talk about today?
I'll start.
Great, thanks.
I don't have the recipe with me because my sister-in-law nor I were able to find it, but my mother used to make fruitcake, and I know that's gotten a bad rep over the years, just like, oh, you know, your fruitcake weighs 20 pounds and nobody wants it. But she made a very good fruitcake, and I can remember, of course, all the dried fruit and soaking it in, what was it, brandy or rum? That they
Yeah.
soaked it for a long time, and we used to love it. We don't know whatever became of the recipe, and neither my sister-in-law nor I have ever tried it, but it was a good fruit cake, so thumbs up for fruit cake sometimes.
I remember, as soon as you mentioned that, it brought back memories to me too. And I remember going through Stop and Shop, just looking to see if they still had fruitcakes. But, you know,
Do they? I don't
no,
even know.
no.
I don't-
Well, I haven't seen
No.
it
Yeah.
in quite a while.
The Italian version of the fruitcake is the panettone,
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
which
yeah.
is a drier texture,
Right.
but with all the different fruits in it as well.
Right.
And that's what we traditionally used to have in place
Much
of.
lighter, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
lighter,
And
Yeah.
yeah, not soaked in anything, but a lot of the fruit. They're very, very good.
Now, could you tell us about how you make the panettone and who would get involved in that?
Let 'em know. I think I have a recipe at home I should have brought
Yeah,
that.
I have, my mother used to make it,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
and I do have the recipe someplace.
Huh?
Probably, I think I know where it is, but, it was a lot of, I never attempted it.
it's very hard, right? It's got a lot of steps and risings and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
risings to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that I remember too. But,
when you talk about the rising, one of the things that, the Italians used to have is, Kadisha. And that's, we made it, our family made it, but I have to tell you that they never really gave us a recipe. It was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and one day I was with Elvina DeLuca, who some of you
Lunch
remember,
lady.
and she was at that time the head of the
lunch
Richfield lunch program.
yeah.
And we were talking about Krisha, and she says, "Oh, I have a recipe I came across in her school books, or whatever." So she gave it to me, and it really is our Krisha. But it tells you exactly what to do and what to put in it. Where we said, you know, a pinch of this and maybe 2 cups, and if it's not enough flour, put more in. So today I brought the Krisha recipe.
How is it spelled,
And we-
Joyce?
And what is
See,
it?
I spelled CREESCIA.
It's
Okay.
basically a cheese bread.
It's a cheese bread.
It's a cheese bread
It's made with yeast.
with grated cheese.
Mm.
Which one is
Like,
the recipe?
Yeah,
Which one? Parmesan?
yeah, Parmesan.
But you can use other grated
And then
cheese.
they
Yeah.
usually put some hunks of cheese.
Yes,
Yes.
and I put hunks of cheese, I put this in here. And it's served, I think we used to serve it years ago with wine.
Yes.
That's originally. Now we have it with, as an hors d'oeuvre. You know, when you have a cocktail, you take a piece of cheese bread.
Oh, yeah.
Not everyone likes the cheese bread, it has a different flavor. And I remember Velma Torcellini, who came from Texas, and she came up, and the first time she had this cheese bread, she didn't quite know how to swallow it. She had a terrible time with it, but she learned.
Is it like a pizza or is it rolled
No.
up?
No,
or
it's
It's like a loaf of bread.
focaccia?
yeah.
Like a
So,
oh,
yeah,
like a
you know
loaf
what?
of bread?
Yeah,
Or some people make it in a round container, but we used to make it in the
a
bread
loaf pan.
pans.
I make it in a loaf pan.
And there's different variations. Like Pat said, one of her grandmothers added more pepper than what we did. Her other grandmother added more cheese than what the basic recipe
Right.
calls for. So everybody kind of varied it
To
the
their
way that
liking.
family liked it.
That was the same in my family, 2 Italian grandmothers, but their Krisha was completely different.
Different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my children never took to it. In fact, when they were little, they used to say, "This tastes like cardboard."
Maybe you didn't have the recipe just right.
No,
And
I think
different
they get
cheeses.
a liking.
You can use different kinds of cheeses,
Oh,
grated
really?
And did you serve it
Parmesan
warm so
or
that it's-
Romano, pecorino, whatever
Oh.
you want.
Oh,
Whatever your
Oh.
family likes best.
Right.
oh, that sounds
For
interesting.
Americans, cheddar.
Yeah, probably
Well, you
cheddar.
put chunks of cheddar on
Do
the
you?
top of it.
Oh,
That
Oh.
melt, that
I
melt
put it
into it.
inside mine.
And she puts it inside.
I put mine.
I used to
I
buy
get the
from
American, white American cheese.
uh-huh.
I buy a chunk and I cut it into cubes. And when I'm kneading it, the second kneading, or the second, after it's risen the first time, you do it again, and then I put the chunks in it at that time. And then put it in the pan.
Oh, interesting.
Sounds
It's
yummy.
quite a process.
It's a project. I mean,
It's like a all day affair.
yeah,
Oh.
it is.
Yeah.
Do you have to let the dough rise?
Yes.
Yeah,
Keep it warm, you
It's a
know,
yeast
the whole
bread.
thing.
yeah, it's a bread.
It's a bread.
It's a bread.
Oh my
Interesting.
gosh.
Wow.
That
Good
sounds
though.
wonderful.
I know it
Yeah.
does.
I will say
We'll bring you a
that,
piece.
Yeah.
lazy person that I am, I've never made Kresha, but I did shop with a friend in Massachusetts, in New York State, at a Wegmans, and they make a very good cheese bread.
Yes, yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
close. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Well, we went over to the apple orchard.
Salad.
We had a cheese bread.
Where?
Apple orchard.
Which one?
I don't remember we bought a cheese bread.
Oh, yes, up in Croton Falls.
Yes. I don't know which one. I don't know.
Salingers.
Salad.
Salingers, and they had a cheese bread very similar. Matter of fact, we couldn't wait. The aroma filled the car. We couldn't wait to get home. I think we ate half of it in the car before we even got home.
And we only bought a loaf because we were going to share it.
Well, you shared it amongst the two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that was excellent. Salinger's Orchard
Yeah.
over in Croton Falls, yeah.
Try that.
Or Brewster. One of
Yeah,
the two.
oh, that way.
We had a version of, you were talking about the fruit cake Portuguese, and so we have this bull ray, which is like a king's cake. And so the way my mother explained it is there was a little naked baby inside and a coffee bean. And so if you got the naked baby, then you had prosper in the new year. And if you were the one that got the coffee bean, you had to buy the cake next year. So my mom passed away a few years ago, but we still get this thing. Nobody eats it, but it has to be on the table
Yes.
with all the other things, you know. And so my husband's family, who is like they came over on the Mayflower, so they're not, you know, and like they don't have traditions in that way, you know, necessarily. So they were like, oh, what's that? So I explained it. So we went through and we played a little game and we were cutting the cake to see who gets the baby and who gets the coffee bean. And there was not a baby or a coffee bean inside.
Oops.
So I don't know if my mom made that up or if they just didn't put it in this time, you know, but I can't wait for this year because obviously we're going to get another one. We're going to have to see if there's either one in there. But
Yeah.
that's
Sounds
ours.
good.
It's a
What
fruit
kind
cake.
of what's
What is
the
it? Like a-
flavoring or whatever?
It's a rum flavoring. It's a
Oh.
thick, like wet kind of a cake. It's got the jellied fruit on top, you know, like the
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
right, and there's nuts in it, and it's called Bull Ray, like which is the king's cake, but yeah, we don't. It's just a lot of stuff in it, so
Yeah.
we never ate it. My mom would have it for
Yeah.
breakfast with a little bit of butter on it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But you know, we still buy it, and someone says to me, "You still buy that? Nobody eats it." I'm like, "We're gonna buy it forever." And I tell my daughters, "I'm like, you're gonna buy it. Nobody has to eat it. It just has to sit on the table, you know."
Tradition.
Yeah.
Janet, where do you get it?
Yeah.
We get so there's a Brazilian. There used to be some Portuguese stores in Danbury,
Oh,
Danbury, yes.
right? So that's where we get our fish. We get dried cod.
Yes.
So we have to soak it for 3 days.
Yeah,
The
we
house
do that.
Smells
too.
like fish, right?
My
It's a
son,
bacalao,
my
yeah.
son does that.
Yeah. So that's what I have to go get that on Friday because it has to, you know, soak for 3 days. You have to change the water. And then, so that's all the way in Danbury, kind of over by the ice arena.
Yes.
Manhattan
To the right.
place. To the
Liberty
right,
Street.
Liberty Street, right. And there's a international bakery, it's called, and they
Yes.
have Portuguese and not Italian, Brazilian.
Yes.
I guess the person who used to own it was Portuguese and told the Brazilian person, you could buy it, but you have to keep some of these staples. You know,
Yes.
like we have certain vinegar and olive oil,
Yes.
and you know, so we get all of our vinegar and olive oil and the bacalao from there because we have to like,
Bacalao.
do our
Yeah.
job. And you know, it's funny. My mom had
We used to have-
Alzheimer's towards the end. But she gave me directions to the Portuguese store. I was lost and I called her and I'm like, you know, what's the name? She's like, I don't know, but here's how you get there. And I just thought it was so funny that like
Yeah,
there were
that-
things she
Yeah,
couldn't
you
remember,
remember,
but
yeah.
she knew where to go get the bacalao, you know, on Christmas Eve stuff.
Yeah, that's where my son goes to.
Yeah.
How do you fix the baklava?
So we just boil it. We boil that with potatoes. We make eggs, hard boiled eggs. And something we call grelos. They're like, what is that? It's like a broccoli rabe.
Okay.
It's a little bit like a broccoli rabe, a little softer, maybe more spinachy, and then we just put the whole thing on the table with the good olive oil and the good, you know, vinegar. And then my mom started making lasagna because we always had a couple of Americans there, you know.
All of them.
You know, we started getting married and bringing in
yes.
Americans, and
Yes.
you know, some of them didn't want to eat the bacalao, so we brought lasagna for them. So,
Along those same lines, there's another bakery right near there.
yeah.
Off of Liberty Street, and it's used to be Portuguese, now it's Brazilian. The best baked goods you ever wanna. The desserts,
How
Yeah.
about the rolls?
the rolls.
The rolls,
It's Alphonse. It's called.
Yes.
It was Alphonse
Yes.
for years and years, and now it was bought by
Yes.
Brazilian people. And the
Is
bread.
that the
and-
same one? Is it?
I
No.
don't think it's the same one.
The
No.
international's up a little bit.
Yeah, it's up a little bit, and they make these beautiful custard cups. They're
Oh, the
pastéis
custard
the
cups are-
pastéis de nata,
They're
and
to
it's
die
funny
for.
because we give that to Santa. Santa doesn't get cookies at our house; he gets one of those, you know. And my kids were always like telling people that Santa gets the pastéis, you know. But yeah, so we have to go and get that. But you have to get that
They're
that
good.
day.
They're out of this world.
So
the
it's like
custard
6
cups.
o'clock in
I
the
get
morning.
them all the time.
Yeah, they're so good. But they go out so fast at Christmas because
Yeah.
everybody has them. So at like 6 in the morning, we're there to try and get our dozen, you know.
Custard cups.
Yeah.
So what's the name of the one that you were talking about, Barb?
I'm sorry.
What's the name of that bakery that you were talking about?
Alphonse.
Oh, Alphonse.
You go all the way down Liberty Street. The skating center's right to your left. There's a bunch of lights. Make a quick right, and then make another quick right, and you'll see there's a sign.
It's in the back.
It's in the little
It's in the back.
place, but the best baked goods. Oh,
Try it.
very, very good.
Very good.
Try Harrison's cookies.
Yes.
Great. Does anyone else have a family recipe to share, or a baking story or cookbook?
My grandmother was New England way back to the 1700s, and she was supposed to be a really good baker. That's what, you know, the ladies at the church felt. She made something she called Mama's Suet Pudding, which was a steamed pudding, and I have her recipe book, which is this little notebook.
Wow, look at that
And
notebook.
it's like spattered with
Who knows what?
everything. But Mama's suet pudding is just basically like a few ingredients, no directions, and I wanted to make it for Christmas one year. So I started reading up about steamed puddings, and actually you could still get, you know, food grade suet at in Kona's then. Grated the suet.
Really?
Yeah. And it had currants, and she said berries or other dried fruit. So that was in there. And then I had to figure out how to. She used to do it in 1 pound coffee cans. Remember those? little ones?
Yes, yes.
And you'd put it in a pot of boiling water, sitting on top of some little cans, so it wasn't sitting on the bottom of the pan, and steam it for like 4 hours. So I did it.
Yeah.
And I made hard sauce, which is butter and confectioner's sugar
Yeah.
and brandy. And it was really good.
Good.
But it did take quite a long time. And I only made it the one time. But then I started collecting pudding steamers. They in antique shops, you used to be able to find them. They were, if you ever see them, they're made of tin. They usually have a center thing like a bundt pan and a lid. And you can still find them and make your own suet pudding if you like. You can also make it with butter. I mean, when I say suet pudding to people, they all go, ugh. But it was really tasty.
Sounds good.
It does.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does anybody do the 7 fishes? No.
No, we did maybe 2.
I do okay. I need more fishes. That's why I wanted to see what other people did for it, you know, for.
Our
Spaghetti
friend
with
Tom
tuna fish
Below
sauce.
used to do
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, Tom did. But
Tom did, because he used to make this trip to Arthur Avenue, which is
Yeah.
like the place to get Italian food.
Yeah.
And it would be crazy down there the week before
Yeah.
Christmas, just insane. But I remember him coming back with the stuka fish and
Yeah, the stuka fish. Oh my God!
oh,
It would smell the whole house when they cooked it. It was like, oh,
I think
walking around like that.
he brought it to Richie Ligi at the police station. Said, yeah, give this to your mother.
Well, what 7 fishes do you
Yeah, I was
use,
gonna ask
Janet?
that.
So we do we do it for appetizers.
Okay.
Oh,
So we do our bacalao as our main dinner.
yeah.
So that's
all
our
it is,
one.
Yeah. For Christmas Eve.
For Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Only Christmas Eve.
Only
really.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Christmas Day we just relax and but so we try to do we make a stage the bacalao, it's bacalao again, but it's like a bacalao and potato croquette.
Yep.
Right, and you deep fry it.
Right.
So we'll make that and we usually have something shrimp but I never know what else.
Do you
Stuffed clams.
do you do the eel? All of that?
No, but we do octopus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the
The
octopus,
octopus will do, yeah.
shrimp.
Shrimp.
What about like the seafood salad? Because you can get
Oh, that's a
a
good
couple
one.
of fishes
And you
in
can,
there.
right, and it doesn't have to be hot. Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
You can buy that and
Right. right.
Genoa has good seafood
Yeah.
salad.
Really?
yeah,
Mm.
shrimp calamari.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no calamari?
I love the calamari, and so does most of my other people. But some people don't like the smell in the house.
Yeah.
But
If you buy it already cooked
Buy it.
yeah, I guess so. Right.
Yeah.
in the seafood salad.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
have
That's a
that.
good way to do it. Just
You're
put
going
7
up.
in the salad. yeah. Right.
Scallops.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we do the scallops wrapped in bacon.
Yeah.
We do a couple little things, but I'm always looking for something else, like what else other people do.
Yeah.
You know.
No, we never did the 7.
No.
I mean, we would do
Maybe 2
2,
or 3.
3.
Yeah.
2 or 3 fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Lot of work.
yeah.
It is a lot
Yeah.
of work.
When did you do the big Christmas meal? Was it Christmas Eve or the next day?
Well, both.
Oh,
Yeah, we used to do both. Christmas
you
Eve
did-
was big, and then Christmas
and then
Day is
you
big.
would go to midnight mass? Or
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago, but
We
that
don't
hasn't
do that
been.
anymore.
Yeah.
Can't stay awake that long.
One time we were up late and it was like about 11 and my neighbor called and she goes, "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you on Christmas, but I was wondering if you could tell me what time midnight mass was." And we just talked about this the other day. And she was like, "Oh." I didn't even say a word, you know? She was like, "Oh, forget it. I never called. I'm sorry." What time midnight mass was?
Oh, that's funny.
That is,
That's hysterical.
Maybe 12.
I was hoping Barb and Pat could talk about the ravioli they just made.
Oh, yes.
How
Well-
do you do it and what's in the middle and all of that?
Well, in my
Homemade
case,
ravioli.
I'll go first,
Okay.
then you go second. Actually, my son and her daughter are the same age and they're into it. Makes his own pasta. And so what you do is you make the pasta and then you make a filling, which is, we use chopped meat and spinach and cheese and a little lemon grind.
Really?
And then you make
Sounds good.
he rolls out the ravioli, and then we make the little ravioli, the squares, make them into, ravioli, and you stuff them. Then for dinner, you bring them to a boil, put them in hot water and boil, and we serve them with a sauce, red sauce, and that's the way that we do it.
Mine's the same.
Yeah.
So you roll it out and then how do you make, you gotta do it better.
Oh, no,
You roll it out.
You have a big board, you got a big board, then you make,
You don't use a
Like-
machine.
oh yes, he used a machine to make the pasta.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
that,
have a hand crank machine, then we
Yes.
have a little gadget that you lay the dough on top, and you press something down and it makes the holes and then the space for the indents.
make
and
the
then
little
you put your-
pockets.
Then you put your filling in that, and then you take another piece of dough and put it on top, and then you just roll it over this gizmo and it cuts it.
And you have a wheel
Yeah.
that it cuts and closes at the same time.
Like a pie thing.
Like a pie thing, but
Yeah.
thicker.
Yeah.
They're like that, and you just
But
go up and down.
we close them by hand though. You kinda wet the bottom layer on the
Yeah.
top and
Yeah.
Yep.
pinch them together.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
no,
We
Jill-
didn't get that far yet, we're not that modern yet.
Jill Letty's. Remember
Ah.
their ravioli?
Yeah.
The
The
ice
best,
house.
The best.
Yeah,
The
it
best.
was, but that was like a triangle. They just took
Yeah.
a square.
Well, they did whatever, they just,
Yeah.
They were wonderful.
yeah.
They were.
Triangular.
Oh,
My,
good
my
ravioli.
mother used to do the, roll out the dough, the old fashioned way.
Uh-huh.
You know, so she'd roll out the dough and it would be this circle, and I would fill half of the dough with little piles of the meat. Then you take the other half, like this, and you bring it over, and then with your hands you separate the little piles, you know, and then you take the cutter and cut them.
Ooh.
That works.
And that sealed them too?
And that sealed them too. And then, but we would take the fork also and look at them because sometimes that little cutter didn't work quite right,
Right.
but it would do a lot.
How far in advance do you make it from when you're gonna
You can
eat it?
freeze them.
You freeze them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's great, cause then,
You
that's something
can,
you could
you know,
do.
you freeze them flat and then you can take them and just put them in a bag.
Right.
A freezer bag, you know.
Yeah.
You flash freeze them first.
Right.
So then they don't stick.
And then my ethnicity is Polish, and we make the pierogi.
Yeah.
The same thing, making the dough
Yeah.
and using the fillings, and our fillings could be cheese and potatoes, or meat, or mushrooms, or kapusta, which is sauerkraut, but it's not a real sauerkraut like strong. We usually will run water over to get rid of some of the pickling, and then we would make circles, and then put the filling inside, and then fold them over, and then pinch.
That's what
Like
we,
wet and
that's the way
pinch,
we did
pinch
the
them so
ravioli.
that they would be, like half circles,
yeah.
and then we would boil them to cook them, but then we would fry them before serving. We would fry them with butter and sauteed onions,
Oh.
and that's how they would, be
I'm
served.
hungry.
For,
No, that sounds good, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Pierogies. Wow.
We were
Well-
in a little village in Emilia Romagna in Italy, and it was about lunchtime. We went in, and the ladies were still making the ravioli on the table in the middle of the restaurant, and they showed us how they put them together. They took a square, they had it in the palm of their hand, and they folded up two corners,
Yeah.
and then they pleated it all the way around.
Okay.
And they were the most beautiful little raviolis, and they were like boom, knocking them off like. I said, "Here, you want to try?"
Right.
So, it took about a minute to do one, but they were just awesome.
Yeah. And today you can get them in restaurants, lobster ravioli. I've had butternut squash ravioli. Delicious.
It's
Really good. It's the pasta that
Yeah.
Yeah.
is the trick.
Have you ever
Good
tried any of the
ravioli.
frozen ravioli from Genoa or Parma?
Yeah.
No? Is it good?
I've had it, it's, yeah,
It's
not
not
like
as good as
homemade.
homemade.
no, but it's fine. I mean, it's a lot of work to make it, so you have to, sometimes you have to take second best.
Do you use, what flour do you use when you make pasta?
Regular flour.
Is there like
Regular
a semolina or a pasta flour? A nice
No,
size-
no,
just regular
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 flour.
all-purpose flour?
All-purpose
Yeah.
flour. All-purpose. The eggs, it's a simple recipe to make it.
It's just the work involved.
My wife and I started something years ago with my daughter and my wife and I, and it was always a Christmas Eve thing, and we didn't go through all that work. We made pizza, and we would make homemade pizza. We still make
Yeah.
homemade pizza, but with the homemade pizza, you could make whatever style you want. We've cooked it in the oven. We've cooked it out on the grill. I even made a wood-fired pizza oven outside, a stone. That doesn't work as well as I would hope, but it's still. We would sit around. We'd have a fire going. We'd have the Christmas tree. We'd sit on the floor in the living room
Right.
and make a pizza, bring it out and eat, and then do another one. And that was our.
Tradition.
Tradition.
It was a
Very
tradition that we
tradition.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was a lot easier than
yes.
doing all the pinching and all that of the
Yeah.
ravioli. But my grandmother would do the ravioli.
She would
do
too.
all. Yep. And one thing I really remember her making, it wasn't always at Christmas time, but gnocchi.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
with the
lots of
dumpling,
people
you know,
make that. It's
and
awesome.
it was,
Delicious.
It
We
was.
love, we make them too.
yeah, that's
Oh, good.
good food,
Mm.
good memories.
I'll go back to their baking. I make anisette biscotti. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever,
Yeah.
you know,
Love
like when you go
biscotti.
to the nice coffee shops or restaurants, they always give you a little biscottis with your coffee or your espresso. So that's one thing that I always make, and that's very simple. Very simple. Just to get the right anisette flavoring in it, and that's all. But they're not hard to make.
Do you use the seeds?
I'm sorry.
Do you use the seeds and crush them? Or
No,
No.
I use the oil.
Oh, okay.
Or you can use the extract as well. The oil is a little stronger,
Yeah.
and you use less of that. The extract you have to use more.
Yeah.
I was able to find the oil on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
We never use the seeds.
No.
No, never use the seeds.
No.
Our family never used them, and so I've never. Yeah,
Because I think that was one of the things that Tom,
He'd use the seeds.
yeah,
yeah,
different part of Italy.
No.
Yeah.
True.
yeah,
Yeah, true. True.
yeah.
I mean, his family was from north, way north. Way around.
We're kind of the middle,
Yeah, on the,
Adriatic.
yeah.
He was a little further up, I think, than
Near-
the
And-
Near
Scottish.
Noci,
Pardon me?
near Noci,
No.
Bari.
Yeah, I think
Because
it's not
my-
too far from Bari.
My father's family was from that area
Uh-huh.
on the Adriatic.
Oh, yeah, not too far.
A lot of our desserts for Christmas had cinnamon in them.
Oh,
Like,
cinnamon.
you know, we would make the pastéis that I was talking about before. You would sprinkle cinnamon on top, and then we would always make a rice pudding. And my mom would make like a crisscross, some sort of design on it with cinnamon, you know.
Yeah.
And then they also, a big one was something called sognos. It's basically fried dough. So it was like little balls, and sognos means dreams because they were light and fluffy like a cloud or a dream. But then they would roll it in cinnamon sugar. So you would fry it that night, and it had to be fresh, otherwise they got hard, you know. Maybe it was like a donut. So you would fry it before everybody got there. That's like kind of the last thing you did. And then roll it in the cinnamon sugar, and then we had this other thing my girlfriend used to call French toast, but it wasn't. But it kind of was. It was a bread, like a pound cake almost, that you would dip in sugar and roll it in, you know, like put in egg and then fry it, but you would eat it cold.
Oh.
Again, another cinnamony kind of something, but that's what we always had. Those things.
What is it, those little honey balls?
Well, I was just going
the
to say,
Sicilian makes.
I remember
Oh,
going into
the
New
little
York
honey
City.
balls.
It was during the cold weather, and we would go to see the Christmas tree, you know, in Rockefeller Center and all that.
I'd love to do that.
But one of the things I remembered just going down the street were the chestnuts.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I just was in Genoa the other day,
Yeah.
actually yesterday, and I noticed that they have a bag of chestnuts.
Chestnuts.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't seen that in
Yeah.
so long. Yeah.
It's a holiday in Portugal to celebrate the chestnut.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah?
a holiday.
Yes, like you would get together. It's called castaña, or I think is what it's called.
Understand.
But I remember we would have this thing you would put in your fireplace.
Yes, yes,
right?
yes,
and
yes.
we'd fill it up with the chestnuts, and
Right.
friends would come over, and it was like a big thing, you know.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
We did that too. And
You
then
did too, yeah.
the older grandfathers would soak them in wine
Yes, right.
and eat them.
Yeah.
They were delicious.
And did you just eat them, you know, or did you dip them in a sauce?
No,
or-
No,
you just
No,
roasted
cracker
them.
roasted,
like
because
you
I've
did
never
the
had-
sauce.
You know, I mean, you know, you hear
Yeah.
it from the song and everything, but.
You make a
you
little,
know,
make a little cross on
Yeah,
them.
Right.
yeah,
And,
and I've
then
never
when they
had them
bake it, it
before.
opens up and you take out the chestnut meat.
And it's soft.
And it's soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but when you take it out of the oven,
Yes, you have
you have to put them in a dish towel,
yeah.
a clean dish
Oh,
towel.
for the steam.
I guess you can use the dirty one, but
Yeah.
a clean dish towel and wrap them up and then kind of massage them a little bit so that the shells kind of break a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put them in a dish towel and you crush them a
Clean
little
or
bit and
dirty?
you steam them, leave them
Yeah,
there
yeah.
5-10 minutes.
And it's, they soften up.
They
Yeah.
soften up and
Good.
Oh, they steam. Okay, so you wrap them up and they steam.
yeah, you wrap them up and then let them steam a little bit.
That's where the chestnuts on the open fire come from.
Yeah.
You saw
Yeah.
them.
yeah.
Since we don't have an
See,
open
the
fire,
old
we'll use our
chestnuts,
oven.
That's right. Grandmother had chestnuts,
Much
but
easier.
they were horse chestnuts.
Yes,
They
yeah.
were-
We
No.
had better
Oh.
chestnuts
Kind,
too,
so.
too.
What
Yeah.
kind of chestnuts are they if they're not horse chestnuts?
American.
American chestnuts.
American chestnuts?
Yeah.
There's, we had chestnut on our property on North Salem Road, yeah.
They pretty much all went with the blight.
Yes, I think they
Yeah, I
are.
heard
But
there
we are
was.
going to try to bring them back.
American chestnut.
We are,
Good.
we are,
Oh.
the Conservation Commission
Right.
is working with the
Oh,
American
really?
Chestnut Foundation.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
There's
it's-
such a thing? Chestnut Foundation?
Oh, yeah. They're growing them down in Wilton off
Really?
Route 33.
Yeah?
And it's something that they are trying to come up with a variety that is as much American as possible, so it doesn't get affected by the blight. And so
Wow.
we're hoping this spring, if the town lawyers look over all the information, that we can actually plant them up at the McKeon's. And
Nice.
plant 10 or 20, and then they don't live that long, but hopefully we could have a variety that does do very well.
Yeah.
So
And
we'll
those
And
are
then
the
you
kind
can
you can
propagate
eat?
if they don't live long. You can, you know, sit
Right.
there and propagate.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
where
very
do the
interesting.
chestnuts that we buy today come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just gonna ask that.
Mm.
I don't know.
A lot of them come from Italy, I think.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
I get
ours at the
say, you
Portuguese
know,
store.
like,
Yeah, you can get,
yeah.
yeah. Portugal, Italy, that's where I think a lot of
Yeah.
them come from.
So they never got the blight, or they have different trees.
I think they have different trees,
Yeah,
because I think
yeah.
here in the United States, there is like a chestnut, or a Chinese chestnut variety, and that might be, a different
Yeah.
type. It
But
may
did
not
you,
look like-
would you try to maybe hybrid them
Well, that's,
with, you know,
that's what they are
yeah,
doing, and they're trying to do,
Uh-huh.
keep as much of the American strain in it, and so,
Oh, that's
but it's,
interesting.
it's,
oh,
it'll
that's
take,
very
That's
interesting.
very interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Pete, those are the kind of chestnuts you can eat, right? That's what
Yeah.
we're talking?
correct. So,
Or the honey balls, the Sicilian honey balls, piñolata.
Is that what they're called?
That's what the interweb says.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
that
those were
sounds
just
like
piled, right? Those
Yeah,
are a
you-
pile of them?
You
Yeah.
fry
Yeah,
little bits
right.
of dough and then
Yeah.
soak them in honey, and then you put
The
sprinkles on them.
sprinkles
Yeah.
on them.
That's
All
what makes
right,
them special.
right.
Our people, when we came, our set didn't make that, but I know Sicilians,
Yeah,
they do that a
Yeah.
lot, that. And they do a lot of fried dough type of things.
yeah.
Very interesting, so.
Yeah.
And they're good. Oh, those are
Oh,
good.
yeah, I bet
Mm.
Those are addictive.
They are. You can pop them like candy.
I got a recipe for those from You know, the Edwardses who lived in Georgetown, Jerry
Yes.
and Gus.
Yes.
Jerry gave me the mother's recipe, and
Oh.
I had it somewhere.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. There's also pizzelles.
That's what I hear
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time.
Joyce makes good
Yeah.
pizzelles.
Do you? Then you can have mine then. I was saying the other day, I like to cook Italian food, but I'll never cook for an Italian. You know?
Yeah,
If an Italian comes over, I'm not making meatballs.
Yeah, we know me.
You know, I'll make something else.
All 8 of my great-grandparents immigrated from Lithuania, but I remember one of my grandmothers would make the pizzelle, so it's always the
yeah?
Italian
Yeah.
desserts, and then the little, are they the wedding cookies? Or
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, Mexican
Yes.
wedding
Uh,
cookies.
so another grandmother would make those, and those are some of the desserts I remember from the holidays.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they're always Italian
Yeah.
desserts.
Yeah.
But you have the good food.
Right, exactly.
Um,
It is the good
and then a dish that I remember that they would make is it was called kugli. It was like a potato grated dish that had bacon and eggs and like cream, and it would be baked like really bad for you.
Yeah. But good.
Right,
Like
right.
delicious.
They
But
like
good.
that.
And so how was it served?
I think you would like cut it in cubes. It was like
Cubes. Oh,
baked in
okay.
a baking dish,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then like warm cubes, and
Okay.
I think they would dollop like some sour cream on it.
Oh, more good stuff.
Right, more good stuff. And then there was also something, not a baked food, but something like a honey liqueur that they would make. It's called Viditos, I think. Some really strong, deadly liquor that went down easily. But so yeah, those are some Lithuanian holiday foods that I.
Did they
remember.
drink that warm?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I
sounds
think
like it would be good warm.
I think it may have been drunk warm.
We would always have our dessert, which was usually like not cakes or anything. It was a lot of the little cookies and things. And then we would have, it's like a Portuguese espresso. It's a bica. It's like
Love it.
tar, you know, like this much. And everybody would usually drink some sort of port, you know, like
Yes.
the different kinds of port. And then we would go on to kind of do the rest of the night. But we always kind of ended the food portion with that, you know, hard alcohol and strong coffee.
We did too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you still do all that?
We don't do the bica because that's intense and nobody really likes it. But we do the port, and you know, again, we buy each other it. We just do a lot of these things because we always did.
Right.
No one, you know, like
Yeah,
not
finish
because anybody like we never finished the bottle, and you know, but we have to have certain kinds of things at the table.
Right.
So we do.
Well, I think it's amazing to see your children grow up and become parents,
Yeah.
and the fact that they like to have things just exactly the way they
Right.
always were when they
Right.
were
Yeah.
kids.
Yes.
Don't try
Right.
and change anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, 'cause
That's true.
there was also Stolen. Remember Stolen
Oh,
was
yeah.
always
Yeah.
around. I never knew anybody who made their own Stolen, but that was always around at Christmas
Right.
time. I don't know if they still sell that in the stores.
Oh,
or
yes.
Edmonds sells Stolen
Trader
or something
Joe's
like that.
usually has
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's almost like a fruitcake.
It is.
Say that,
Yeah, but
So
not
it's
as
not
not
as-
as dense.
not as dense.
as dense. by any
Between a
means as
fruitcake and a panettone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is.
So I have a little bit of information about bakeries here in Ridgefield. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that too, because oftentimes people went out to buy some of their baked goods, and you know, it's really incredible. So today in Ridgefield, I think we have at least 6 bakeries, right? Ross Bakery, the Cake Box, Elisabella's, Parma Bakery, Whistle Stop Bakery, Stacy's Totally Baked. And that's not even counting like the coffee places, which do,
Yeah.
I guess, some baking as well. But historically, it seems like the first bakeries didn't come to Ridgefield until after the Civil War, when the folks who started to come here from New York City, you know, needed some places to buy some baked goods. Prior to that, you know, things were baked in the ovens back during the colonial days here in Ridgefield. So it looks like the first bakery was called Ridgefield Bakery, It was founded in 1866 and lasted until the mid-20th century. A fellow named J.W. Benedict ran it from 1894 to 1896, and then he sold it to Charles Stevens and William Reinhardt in 1896. The last owner were the Hurlzler family. Hurlzlers.
Yes.
And her daughter was a longtime town clerk.
Yes. Yeah.
So that bakery operated until the early 1960s, and it was located where Planet Pizza is today.
Go in there.
And it says the last owner was Christian Jensen in the 1950s. Does anyone remember this bakery? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
We used to go there after church, I know, to pick up,
Yeah.
you know, donuts, things like that.
Oh, they
like
would
that.
make donuts?
Yeah, I think.
The Herzler's Bakery, I know when my father came home from World War II, before he bought the Casimir store, he drove a bakery truck for Herzler's. I remember hearing that story.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They
there
would
used to be-
deliver?
I mean, when I was a
Oh,
kid,
nice.
there were bakery trucks, there was a dairy
Yes.
truck,
Oh, yeah.
They would come to the house.
and they
Yeah.
would come to the house and
Milk boxes.
like the bakery truck, you could go in, it was like a little mini store.
Yeah.
Shelves
What
on
was,
both
what was
sides.
the name of that? I loved that truck when it came
Was
to the
it?
house.
It was like an Entenmann's.
Yeah, it was like
a
an
Drake-
Entenmann's.
Drake.
No, it was
It was
another
like an
name.
Entenmann's. I remember.
Yeah, he used to
We
come
had
to the
Gunners
He used to
house.
come to the
in
house.
Danbury. Yeah,
We gotta look
They
that
did.
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember who it
Okay.
was.
Was it the company that did Wonder Bread or
No,
No.
because this is.
It
not
might
Wonder,
be.
but you know, it was like they had little stores too, right?
Little what?
Little
Store?
stores.
I don't.
No,
No.
this.
It was only delivery.
And we used to have a Charlie Chip.
Yes.
Charles
Oh,
Chips.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's
Mar-
a-
Yeah.
Marcus Dairy.
Marcus Dairy.
Marcus Dairy
Yeah.
delivered
Yeah.
I
milk.
still have the milk
Yeah.
box
Yeah.
from them.
Oh.
They used to keep it at the back door.
Well,
It's amazing.
How about Les Alps? I remember
Yes.
that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
That was all
Yeah.
our favorite.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They were,
we're-
I think, Swiss,
Yeah.
Well,
I think so.
and they had the
Yeah.
best.
Pastry.
It was
They
next
do
to,
The little small pastries.
yeah.
You know, now they're
Yeah.
just nice little ones that.
Right.
And their rolls.
The snowflake
They-
rolls.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes. Those were great.
Yeah.
So nice.
They
So
were-
where were they located?
They are now.
So
for,
what's there now? Some
The Chinese.
Steve's
Chinese
Or Steve's
restaurant?
Bagels.
Yes,
Yeah,
or
Steve's
Steve's.
Bagels.
Steve's
Yeah.
Bagels.
And after the churches let out, there would be lines of people
Yes.
all the way
Yeah.
down the
Right.
sidewalk.
Wow.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, just to go and get
After church donuts.
after church and their.
So that was a Sunday
they were-
tradition.
Yes.
They were so good.
My parents
You,
did
you
that.
stop and buy a newspaper and then the
Yes.
donuts.
Yes.
They go to Squashes first.
Squashes for the paper.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
jelly donuts at Les Alps.
Right.
What were
Yeah.
those?
Oh, the big tree.
Yeah.
Those rolls with the little raisins in them. What were those called? Little
Hot cross
squares.
buns? No.
Yes,
Yeah.
hot cross buns.
Yeah.
For Easter.
Oh, out of this world.
Oh, they would make
Yeah,
them.
that's Easter,
Oh
yeah.
yes, they had the best.
Light as a feather, just.
Yes. Can't remember the
Great
name of the
bakery.
people though. Don't remember them.
I remember being a Girl Scout leader or a Brownie leader, and we would make the easy version of a gingerbread house, which was we would take one of those small containers that you got
Oh,
your milk
yeah.
in at school, you know, the little.
Yeah.
And then we would put graham crackers on the side
Yeah.
and the
We did
candies
that
on
too,
top of
and
that.
that's
That was the
right.
brownie
Yeah.
version of a gingerbread house.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I would make
never
it
heard
for
of
my
that.
I did that with my Girl Scout troop
Yes.
too, my brownie troop.
I did it with my kids too. We would do graham crackers, but I would hot glue gun them. And I'd be like, you can't eat it. But I would hot glue gun them because otherwise it's just, and I would
Oh,
use
it's-
graham crackers.
Right.
It just never, and I'm like, they just want to decorate.
You have
No one
to use
really
that
wants
royal
to- they wouldn't
icing
eat the
that
candy.
turns to rock.
And I remember one of my nieces was really upset one day when she realized there was glue in it, you know.
I can't eat that.
Just eat the candy.
Yeah.
I gotta ask my daughter about, we would make gingerbread houses and decorate, and it was always, you know,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do that this
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
You
with
should.
her coming home.
Yes, you should do that.
okay.
It's time. Yeah.
Betsy, Betsy, would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the items that you pulled out from the archive here?
Sure. Well, you can't really see that. Let me get up here. A couple of them. I just like the name of these cookies: Cherry Wings and Jokers. Let's see. Colonial cookbook. Very cool. Like Maids of Honor, they're called. Truly ancient delicacy. These cakes. These little cake and jelly tarts were sold on London Bridge in the days of Queen Elizabeth I. And they're made with apple jelly, which is kind of interesting. And some cookies. Fiery favorites. Ridgefield Ladies Auxiliary. That was her. And some of these are out of order, so sorry. Has anyone ever made that Shambella Italian cake?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that has the
Your
anise
aunt,
oil in it.
Rich's aunt used to make a great one,
right.
Rosie.
I've never heard of it. It looks good.
Yeah.
And
Here's
that's
Pat
the
Lagos.
anise again in it.
Pat Lagos. Alice Brown's dark chocolate cake.
Alice Brown.
Alice Brown, yeah. This is the Women's Club cookbook. Not sure what year that is. Love the pictures. Okay, so this one has, oh yeah, the Queen Elizabeth cake again. And there's one here called Chocolate Poison, which is kind of
That sounds
And you
delicious.
know, my mom used to do this, it's a time saver. You had chocolate cake mix and then you added pudding mix to it.
Yeah,
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 we
that
used
was
to
like
do
a
that.
really big
Yeah,
thing
we
then.
still do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do the lemon version, the lemon cake mix and
Lemon,
eggs,
right.
So
pudding,
good with the lemon pudding.
and just powdered sugar on top.
Two Christmas cookies recipes for Kay Abels, who was our town historian. Dusen Confectioners and finger cookies. I think it's Dutch or German, I'm not sure.
That was the name of that.
What?
Dugan's.
Oh, is that
Dugan's,
what it's
that's
called?
it. Yeah,
That
the
was the
Dugan's.
name of the bakery
Dugan's.
truck.
Oh.
Dugan's.
Dugan's.
I remember that.
Pointed that out.
Dugan's. Flaming Pears
Yes, that's the
Alba. I
name.
don't know
Right,
if anyone
when
ever
it comes
makes
to the
that
house.
anymore,
Oh, Betty liked it.
but, this is an interesting one where it says this a punch recipe. Come back. This is a great punch, but it can put you away. And here's the thrift shop. This cartoon neighbors borrowing all the ingredients for her.
That's funny.
This is from Keeler Tavern. These are colonial tavern recipes. This one is for glog and eggnog and wedding cup punch, cognac, triple sec, champagne, and club soda. The glog is a Christmas recipe. Has anybody ever made it? It's sugar, cinnamon,
We had some.
cloves, red wine, a bottle of brandy, some raisins, and some almonds. And then you let it, you bottle it and seal it tightly.
Wow, bottle it.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, if you had a cold or something, you would take that glove. And this is a colonial recipe called Yard of Flannel, also known as Flip. There's an old tavern drink. Oops, cut back. Ale, rum, eggs, sugar, kind of like, I would say eggnog, ginger, meal. Right, this is a really old cookbook from Jessie Lee Church. And this was interesting because there's the pork cake, 1 pound of pork,
Wow.
salt pork, and then boiling water, molasses, sugar, eggs, flour, cinnamon, cloves, salt, and
Whoa.
raisins. So that, yeah, and this is the, ever used
No
teacups?
cholesterol.
There was no measuring spoons or cups. It was always a teacup or a spoonful or, like you were saying, Sally, there's
Yeah, or a scant.
scant, yeah. Right. No pictures or anything. Here's a cornstarch cake, which is kind of, it's got a cup of cornstarch in it. Just seems like a lot. 6 eggs. And this is one I was interested in. See, here's the weights and measures, so,
Oh, I love those.
1 1 pound of broken loaf sugar is equal to 1 quart. 4 large tablespoons equals a gill. I don't know what that is. Oh, come back. You can tell I don't know what I'm doing with this thing. This was an interesting one here, washing a fowl. Have ready a pan of hot water and ivory soap suds. Wash the chicken. I didn't realize that the chicken is alive while you're doing this. You're scrubbing it.
Oh,
And then afterwards you wash them again. And homemade cough syrup, molasses, castor oil,
Oh, great.
lovely
That'll get rid of anything.
ipecac and paregoric, which
Oh my
ipecac,
Oh, my goodness.
my.
I know ipecac,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
used to have that at the office.
Yeah.
To make you throw up.
Oh,
And
Yes.
Come out from both ends.
paregoric was sort of an opiate.
it kind of reminds me of Stand By Me when they
Yeah.
had the pie eating contest and then the kid downs the thing of,
Ipecac?
oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I know my dad told a story of he was going to a meeting one night to speak and he had a cough. So he went to the office, pulled open the medicine cabinet and took a little, it was full of samples of all different medications. And he thought he was taking cough medicine and he actually took ipecac. He went to the meeting and he was like, oh!
Oh, my
And we
gosh.
left and the guy said, why didn't you stand up and say something? We were waiting for you to talk. See? Okay, so I think that's it.
Oh, very nice.
If you want to look at any of these cookbooks, they're up here, and Janet has a very cool cookbook, family cookbook. We got
Fire cookbook, I never saw that one before.
Shambhala, Italian.
Ladies on tour.
Great. Thank you, Betsy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Does anyone have any final stories they'd like to share about holiday baking traditions or any recipes or cookbooks?
I'm hungry.
Well,
Oh,
we've
cookies.
got cookies that we brought. Does anyone want to mention what kind they brought, or is there any story behind them?
Harrison?
It's chocolate chip.
Oh, everyone loves chocolate.
Everyone's
Did
favorite.
you make them, Harrison?
It was a co-done by my mother and I. So
Good.
That's great. We glad to
That's
see
very nice.
And
guys
it was
cooking.
very good,
And
the one
it
that
was
I
good?
had.
Yeah.
Gotta have one of them.
I was telling Betsy earlier, I realized we didn't have the eggs. I went to Stop and Shop to get the eggs, and as I'm paying, I realized that I left my card at home. So I had to leave the eggs, go back home, get my stuff, go back to Stop and Shop. I got stuck in traffic, and then finally got the eggs. So
That's
it was a whole
devotion.
thing. Yeah,
Thank you for doing that.
Just for us?
yeah.
just
Ah, very nice,
So-
Harrison.
And we're making copies of recipe sets.
Yeah, okay.
So everyone can
Yeah.
bring them home. All right.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us today and sharing your holiday baking traditions with us. I want to remind you our next History Club gathering is on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. 10 o'clock here at the Scott House. Everyone is welcome, and we're going to be talking about Ridgefield wintertime memories. So we're very curious to hear about what life was like in Ridgefield during the winter in the past. So bring your stories related to that and any objects that you have for show and tell, and we'll pull some things out of the collection as well. I also want to remind you that we have a couple other programs in January. Jack Sanders is going to be conducting an obituary writing workshop for us on January 25th here at the Scott House. That'll be a great program, and he'll be able to provide one-on-one consultation and editing so that you will leave that workshop with a completed obituary. And on January 29th, we're partnering with the Granite Church in Reading, and the program is going to be a discussed history of Georgetown, and the Reading co-historian Brent Colley is going to be talking about how the railroad shaped Gilbert and Bennett success, and also how that tied into the surrounding area of Branchville. So if you're interested in the railroad, please join us for that program on January 29th. You could go to the Ridgefield Historical Society's website at ridgefieldhistoricalsociety.org to register for those upcoming programs. And for everyone out there on Facebook, I want to remind you that we're open here at the Scott House this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have lots of unique Ridgefield history gift items. If you're still looking for someone, if you're doing shopping for a holiday gift, please stop by. All proceeds benefit the Ridgefield Historical Society. We look forward to seeing you. And I just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday and a healthy new year. And we'll see you all in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.